Established chocolate companies badly exploit black children in the black continent of Africa by driving them into child slave labour.
Slave trade that supports the chocolate industry. According to some experts, 100%, not 10, not 50%, but 100% of the chocolate we eat can be traced back to cocoa farms that use child labour. They estimate that there are something like 1.6 million child labourers working in the cocoa farms of West Africa, and as many as half of them are slaves.
Black children work on cocoa plantations in Africa for chocolate companies like Cadbury, Nestle and Mars. The Mars Corporation own Galaxy Chocolate, Sneakers and the Mars Bar. Boycott these chocolate brands and do not buy the chocolate as they endorse black child slave labour.
Cocoa is sold to massive conglomerates which supply household names like Nestle and Cadbury's, so you can bet that if you've eaten chocolate recently, it's probably tainted. The cocoa industry runs on the blood, sweat and tears of child slaves. The US Labour Department estimates that over 2 million children work in the cocoa industry globally. This horror takes place in West Africa, Ghana and the Ivory Coast.
Hello, it's Cardiac Champagne here and welcome to my new YouTube network. Today we'll be badly exposing the dark side of the chocolate industry. Black workers are treated badly by multi-corporate white firms to extract the cocoa bean, which we eat in everyday chocolate.
Chocolate is one of America's favorite treats, but a CBS News investigation found the cocoa used by candy giant Mars is harvested by impoverished children in Africa.
This black boy was badly exploited on a chocolate plantation. He'd been beaten severely and forced into child labour for 4 years. Black child slave labour.
Millions of children, yes. Working as slaves.
Just slavery. Now, young children are abducted from poor countries like Mali and Burkina Faso and taken to neighbouring countries like Ivory Coast and Ghana to work for farmers who own them, work them and beat them until they submit totally.
How illegal child labour is being used to supply cocoa beans to Cadbury, Britain's favourite chocolate brand. As young as 10, working gruelling hours on farms supplying Cadbury, missing school and carrying heavy loads. Dangerous work, using machetes and sharp knives, and hear how some have been injured.
Cadbury badly exploit black children on the Ivory Coast of Africa. Do not buy Cadbury chocolate. Boycott the firm. Do not buy Cadbury, as it supports black child slave labour.
Cocoa plantations here are full of children, often taken from poorer neighbouring countries, especially Mali and Burkina Faso. The children are promised jobs, rounded up and taken across the border. 4 out of 10 of them are slaves. No pay, no chance of escaping, and harsh conditions, including malnourishment and physical and mental torture. They're at the bottom of the cocoa pyramid. The cocoa they harvest is sold by the farmers to a local cooperative, which then sells it to big conglomerates from around the world, including America's Cargill and Mondelez and Switzerland's Barry Callebaut, which in turn supply cocoa to household names like Nestle, Mars, Cadbury's and Lindt.
No, it's bad of Lindor chocolate to exploit the black continent of Africa and to partake in black child slave labour. Lindor gets all its chocolate cocoa directly from Africa.
Human rights groups say these companies know about the child labour and are therefore responsible.
Before you buy certain brands of chocolate next time, just remember that children in African countries are forced into the grueling and often dangerous process of cocoa production.
Black child slave labour is used by major chocolate firms such as Cadbury Lindor chocolate badly exploits black children in Africa. Do not buy Lindor chocolate. Boycott the company. And Mars, the black children are beaten severely, beaten with leather belts and beaten with hard sticks and forced into child labour. One of the major companies behind it is Nestle.
Nestle. From controversial business practices to ethical concerns, there's a lot to uncover.
Do not buy Nestle's chocolate. Boycott the company. They have a bad history of exploiting black children in child slave labour.
Child slave. That there are child slaves in the cocoa industry, that our chocolate is not 100% guaranteed to be slave-free.
Laboring in the blistering heat here as young as 6, slicing the grass with lethal ease. Their machetes, these Ghanaian children are harvesting the cocoa that ends up in America's best-loved chocolate.
Snickers, M&M's, Milky Way, Orbit, Mars, and Twix to the beloved Ben's Original Rice brand. And Mars Incorporated has...
Like M&M's and Snickers. Instead of going to school, they are learning that sharp blades cut deep and big corporations make promises they seldom keep.
Use of child labour. Mars did send us a written statement condemning the use of child labour. Tonight, more needs to be done.
They're farming these beans. It's dangerous work.
50 years of Mars goodness.
The Mars family first began making candy more than 100
bought
years
more
ago.
than $20 billion worth of chocolate candy.
I'm sitting here with 2 packs of M&M's. Nation has written about how we get our chocolate. In particular, Mars products like M&M's and Snickers that are some of Americans' favorites. I traveled to Ghana for this story and found children, some as young as, listen to this, 5 years old, that were harvesting cocoa.
Billions made on the backs of these young children.
The chocolate giants known as Nestle and Mars,
When you buy a chocolate bar,
after being badly exposed, want to clear up their act by incorporating fair trade logo on their chocolate bars.
Class action lawsuits were filed Monday in California against Hershey's, Nestle, and Mars, claiming the companies knowingly used cocoa harvested in West Africa by child slaves. The American
ought to pay labourers and former labourers compensation. But America's Supreme Court disagrees. Recently ruled that Nestle and its cocoa supplier Cargill cannot be sued for benefiting from child slavery in Ghana and the Ivory Coast because the crime is being perpetrated by foreign citizens in a foreign land over which it has no jurisdiction.
Right, fair trade chocolate. I buy them in Poundland. Can buy them from Poundland. The black children and black adults are not exploited. With this sticker on, the frog logo is 100% safe to eat, as it is not a part of the black child slave labour, and the cocoa is extracted by ethical means. Major back of the chocolate, it's got that tiny frog, and the frog means they're trying to stop and fight black exploitation of children on cocoa farms, and the frog at the back.
chocolate. The plaintiffs want the packaging of the candy to say child slaves were involved.
Nestle, a household name synonymous with chocolates, coffee, and bottled water. But behind the sweet facade of this global giant lies a series of dark and troubling practices. Today, we're diving deep into the dark side of one of the world's biggest food and beverage companies, Nestle. From controversial business practices.
No, Nestle targeted black women in Africa with the breastfeeding campaign, because Nestle, the white corporation, told black African women to stop breastfeeding and feed their children the Nestle milk powder substitute.
67 troubled by the high infant death rate, who pushes baby formula on the masses. Through paid doctors and shady advertisements, Nestle convinced much of the public that formula was better than natural breast milk, and hundreds of saleswomen in Africa and Asia dressed them up like nurses and sent them to local communities to profess the false benefits of baby formula to mothers all over the developing countries. At the discretion of Nestle, these saleswomen gave formula samples to nursing mothers that would last just long enough for the mother to stop producing milk, but not long enough to feed the baby until it could be weaned.
The powdered substitute lacked nutrients, and most of the black African women milk did dry up naturally, and they were forced to give their infants the Nestle bad powder, milk powder, which was, to make matters worse, was mixed with badly contaminated water.
The World Health Organization says unclean water, poor hygiene, and bad sanitation are linked to 4% of deaths in the world and 6% of debilitating illnesses, including cholera, dysentery, and typhoid.
Sewage water, you can smell how dirty it is.
Nestle badly contaminated the water supply in Pakistan.
Mohammed believes sewage has leaked into the water pipe.
Nestles have badly contaminated the water supply.
Nestle, one of the world's most recognizable and beloved, a dark side to its story. It was accused of aggressively marketing its infant formula to mothers in developing countries, often in areas where clean water was not readily available. This mortality rates. Nestle's promotion of infant formula in developing countries has been
Nestle is more famous today for its misdeeds than its over-processed snacks and drinks. They steal water from third world countries, poison babies, and enslave thousands of desperate people to pick their cocoa beans. Just the sins of Nestle, the world's most evil chocolate maker. Child slave. Her child slaves in the Ivory Coast brought a lawsuit against Nestle for aiding and abetting illegal enslavement of thousands of children on cocoa farms in their supply chains, along with the likes of Mars and Hershey, so defenders will say it's an industry problem, not a Nestle problem. When you consider that the Ivory Coast produces 45% of the global cocoa supply,
including Mars.
Now to a CBS News investigation into the dark truth behind the production of one of America's favorite treats, chocolate. CBS's Deborah Patta has our exclusive report on the use of child labor.
Like these little boys doing the back-breaking work of adult men. Tiny hands struggling with the dangerous work of hacking open cocoa pods, the long blade narrowly missing this 5-year-old's fingers. Raking in billions every year, in large part from chocolate.
Snickers, Milky Way, Twix, M&M's, Dove.
Major chocolate giants such as Mars, Nestle, and Cadbury are a part of the bad exploitation of black children,
surpassing even Coca-Cola, is chocolate confectionery. Mars Incorporated is the classic chocolate bars to bite-sized candies and indulgent treats.
This bad trade of black child slave labour is directly behind the chocolate industry. Even Cadbury chocolate have been a part of the bad black child exploitation industry. All chocolate is cultivated and extracted that way. That's why it's important that chocolate has a fair trade sticker on. Fair trade does not exploit black children in Africa. It's a legal guideline to protect black adults and children in third world countries that cultivate cocoa and other products. Any product with a fair trade sticker on is safe to eat and is ethical. Do not buy chocolate if it hasn't got the fair trade sticker on. It's a legal legislation that protects black children and adults in third world countries. The fair trade is not a part of black child slave labour. Little selection of dark chocolate, raspberry dark, salted caramel, but that's dark. £1.40. Little fair trade chocolate. This has got the fair trade logo. It was £1.45. Supposed to be ethical. Fair trade. No exploitation of black children in Africa. Another alternative to fair trade is the Rainforest Alliance. The frog logo is used by a corporation known as the Rainforest Alliance, which is not a part of black child slave labour. Chocolate with the frog logo. That's safe to eat that chocolate. Bad chocolate manufacturers such as Mars, which own Snickers, Twix, and the Galaxy chocolate firm, After being badly exposed in the media, I've decided to clean up the act and on our part of the Rainforest Alliance, and certain Galaxy and Mars chocolate bars have the frog sticker on. One of which is Mars' own Galaxy, Snickers and Twix. Any Galaxy chocolate bar with this frog sticker on should be safe to eat. If in doubt, do not buy the chocolate. It's best to boycott and should be safe to eat. If in doubt, do not buy the chocolate and boycott the company. This is unusual. It's Walker's Crisp with cheese toast flavour, limited edition. But it's a chocolate I want to draw your attention to. This is chocolate with cornflakes. You have to be careful of chocolate manufacturers because these ones are safe, but ones by the Mars company. These are not by Mars. And these are definitely not by Nestle. This is Sainsbury's chocolate with hazelnut. It tastes nice. It tastes superb. Chocolate. These are from Sainsbury's, but from Sainsbury's and not from their bad manufacturers. Chocolate treat.